Hello everybody and welcome back to the Thrustmaster Virtual GP 2017 Championship. It's round number 2, it's Nürburgring in Germany, and I am very much looking forward to this round after the first round was pretty exciting to watch, both for the battle for the lead and also the midfield battles, a few guys having some incidents at the start of the race as well, and I think Nürburgring will definitely not let us down either. I'm Matthew Gallagher, and joining me in the commentary box once again is Justin Sutton.
Thanks for having me, Matt. Really looking forward to this one. As you mentioned, last time out, Imola was great, and I'm expecting Nürburgring to be equally good.
And we're going to have a look around this track with it's Daniel Lischkak, in fact, which is his first race of the season, with Andrei Schlebeck racing in the first round at Imola. So we come into turn 1, a hard braking zone into this sort of downhill cambering corner, and then we go left, and you're just kind of waiting and waiting to get on the throttle through turn 2. It's quite a, you have to be very patient through there, and then through turn 3 as well. It seems like it lasts for absolutely ages. Through turn 4 now, and then on the power as we now head towards quite a technical area now as we throw the car in to this left-hander. Again, quite nicely cambered, and this one as well, downhill. Try and hit that apex nicely. Get on the power as you've got a little bit of runoff to use on the exit as well, and then you head on down towards this, I guess, hairpin section, downhill again. This track is not flat by any stretch of the imagination. On the power once again as we come through this very quick left-right section. The Schumacher S's, I believe it's called, if I'm correct, as we now come to another quite hard braking zone for this left-hander. You can actually take quite a lot of speed in through there and through this right as well. There's quite a few little 90-degree, not as I'd say harsh as, for example, Azerbaijan on the Formula 1 calendar, but nice and smooth, this Nürburgring track, as we now head towards this, probably the hardest corners on this circuit, as we negotiate it fantastically with Daniel Lischkak now coming into the last corner, trying to hit that apex once again, let the car run wide as we now head straight towards the finish line and finish a lap of the Nürburgring.
So let's take a look at the starting grid for today's race. It is Martin Stefanko, who came in second last time out, but he's looking to rectify that and starting in the best possible position ahead of Michael Schmidl, who starts on the front row in second position, so 2 front row starts. Hanzik is quite a ways further up in that Thrustmaster car in 3rd position versus last time out at Imola, and there is Daniel Lischkak, who we just saw the onboard with, in 4th position, completing that 2nd row. Then we've got Plesny in 5th position, alongside Dolazel in 6th in the DX Racer car. Then comes Peter Zubek, the other podium finisher last time out in Imola, in 7th position, alongside Sikora in the T-Mobile car. Then comes Chlad in 9th position, Frabish in the Lynx car down in 10th, and Michael Blazik bringing up the rear in the BenQ car in 11th position, but I'm sure he'll be looking to change that in the race.
And here we go then. It's worth mentioning that KERS has been allowed for the rest of this season to allow even better and quicker racing as the lights are coming on now, and we're waiting for that better and quicker racing. And the lights are out and away we go for round number 2 here at Nürburgring. Stefanko getting a really decent start, actually much better than Schmidl as we head towards turn 1 now. Honzik in 3rd position still, and Lischkak in 4th, so the top 4 maintaining their position going into turn 1. And it looks like Honzik keeping that inside line ahead of Daniel Lischkak. But no, that's the spin there from Lischkak, who has started the season terribly there for the TP Link team. So that will be very disappointing for him, who had a great qualifying, and that is almost 5 abreast going into that turn 4, I believe. Is that left-hander? There's another one going wide there, as we now see some more contact between the Effective Racing and Link's team car there of Jan Frabish, and hopefully neither of them got too much damage, but they may have hit the wounded Chlad there. So, or was that Dolazel? I'm not sure, but quite a few people getting tagged up in incidents there, and we now have a bit of a battle here between the TP Link car and the Effective Racing of Chlad down at the back of the field. Lischkak and Chlad having terrible starts to this race, and there's been a penalty. Controls are locked for 13 seconds. I'm not sure what that particularly means, but either way, Stefanko is leading this race ahead of Schmidl, but Schmidl is very much within sights of Stefanko, and I'm pretty sure if Imola is anything to go by, Justin, these two will be locked together for most of the race.
Yeah, we may even see some side-by-side action coming up very closely now as they head down the straight through turn 13, barely a turn at all. A little bit further back, as you mentioned, some contact at the rear. Several moments of contact, in fact, has caused a pretty significant gap between 7th and 8th or around that sort of area. So we'll have to see exactly how that plays out later on. Still lots of laps of racing still to go. But as you mentioned, Stefanko and Schmidl, I'm expecting those guys to be very close to one another, very quick, very similarly paced guys. Finished the race in Imola by less than a second apart from one another. So very, very close indeed. But Honzik holding on to that 4th place position. Polesny now up into 4th, excuse me, Honzik in 3rd. And yeah, it's not a very big gap at the moment. Schmidl is holding on to the back of him through this kind of Mickey Mouse section. As you mentioned, the opening handful of corners or so, very difficult to navigate, especially at low speed for these types of cars. But these guys doing a fantastic job of it. And then a little bit higher speed corners here now, so could potentially be picking up a bit more of a dirty air effect off of Stefanko up ahead. But on board with Blazek, the man that started in last position, who is now up to 6th after all of those incidents on the first lap, Matty, and it looks like he's trying to make that into the top 5 already here on lap 2.
Yeah, right behind Sakura, who appears to be struggling, falling off the back of Polesny by over 3 seconds already on lap number 2. And it looks like Blazek, after that very disappointing qualifying, is trying to make up a few positions. And well, he's doing pretty well at the moment, up in 6th position. Sakura definitely not looking particularly comfortable at the moment as we're now about to head down this very long straight in this last sector. And will he pick up a decent slipstream? We will not find out just yet, as that is, I believe, yes, Polesny right behind Honzik, in fact. So Honzik, although a lot of people would have maybe bet of him to be battling with Schmidl and Stefanko, in fact, he's falling into the clutches of Polesny, who seems to be pretty quick at the moment, getting a twitch of oversteer there on that last corner. But right now, Stefanko pulling out over a second to Schmidl, as looking very strong at the moment is Martin. And Michael Schmidl will definitely be thinking about how Imola panned out, and maybe already starting to think about the strategy and how we can get ahead of Martin Stefanko, that Republic of Gamers car. As we're now on board with Frabish, who is right behind Sakura. Blazek has actually made that position and up into P5 now, and that pink lovely livery of that T-Mobile car now coming under pressure from Jan Frabish as well. And it'll be interesting to see. I think it's going to be a one-stop race this time for the drivers as well. A simple medium tyre change at some point during this race. And, well, not too much strategy elements in terms of tyre wear and things like that. But there's actually a really good run there from Frabish on the inside of Sakura now into this very long hairpin of this right-hander. And they're going to be side by side. And Frabish should get a better exit, but it's still going to be side by side as we head towards the Schumacher S's here. And he has to get out of it just about. Still very much in the rear diffuser of Sakura. And let's hope they do not make any contact now coming towards this 90-degree left-hander. He's going to try and go round the outside of Frabish, or maybe just trying to think of a decent line to take onto this next straight, because he's going to get some pretty decent slipstream if he stays within there. And that's another move there. Chlad getting ahead of Dolazel, I believe that is. And they're fighting, unfortunately, for last position at the moment. And Polesny now still right behind Honzik.
Yeah, very close racing up and down the field. Yeah, as you mentioned, even for that final position, there is a battle going on right now. But yeah, Frabish certainly having to worry about Sakura in his rear view, and likewise Zubek as well, and Lishkak not far behind. In fact, all of these guys separated by just a couple of seconds. So here we go, on board with Zubek on Sakura with the inside line down towards turn number 1. Down the hill they go, and with that inside line, it looks like he is going to get the move done. He's got the switchback though. Sakura comes back at him, but it's a very, very long corner, turn 2, and then it's another left-hander. 2 left-handers in a row. Very difficult to go around the outside there for all of the drivers, really. So no surprise that he's able to hold on to that position. So some very close racing though, and now he's going to turn his focus towards Frabish, but no, actually Sakura is coming back at him. He's going to try and go around the outside at turn 6. Nothing doing there. Takes the racing line for turn 7, possibly going to threaten him into the turn 8 hairpin. Lots of cambers to these corners, Matty, which is how these guys are able to carry so much speed through a corner that you would think is so slow. But Sakura now coming under attack from Lishkak. This is basically a 3-way battle, as Frabish now starting to pull away from this group as these guys are locked into battle with one another. But Lishkak getting the job done, moves ahead of Sakura, and actually gives himself a little bit of a gap as they come onto the very long straight here. So I think Lishkak is going to be more concerned about Zubek ahead than Sakura behind.
is interesting. I'm not sure if Sikora's got some damage or what, but he's gone from 5th place all the way down to 9th and has already fallen about a second behind these two, although they're starting to battle now, so he can start to close back up to Lishkak and Zubek, who are going to go potentially side by side into that last corner. And that's going to be close going down into turn 1, and Sikora may well get involved as well if he's got some KERS, which he'll get a fresh batch now as he's just started lap number 5 for himself, and that's going to be a move up the inside there for Lishkak on Zubek. Has he spotted his braking point? I think he has indeed. A little bit of a lock-up, but managing to make that move and up into P7 after a very disappointing start for Lishkak, who qualified in 4th position, do not forget, so he does have that pace. And I really am wondering about Sikora and whether or not he had some damage there, because he really is struggling when he was up in 5th place at one point. So let's see if he can maybe start to crawl back towards the field if he is just struggling to get some consistency. And another lock up there into that next right-hander. That's Honzik and Polesny. So the battle for the final podium position. We have 25 laps to go, so still don't really want to be doing too many risky moves as there's a lot of time left. There's also a pit stop for all these drivers as well, so there is still time to make some strategic calls. And also, I do not need to forget to mention the fact that you can vote for your driver of the day. You don't really want to vote just yet, as we're only lap 5 of 30, but you can vote for driver of the day on the website, which is listed below. And there's also a competition for luxury Swiss watches, thanks to Certina, which is also at the bottom as well. So make sure you get involved with that, as it's a sort of a guess where people are going to finish and things like that, so it's quite cool. But either way, get involved with that, and we are now waiting for our next move, which I think, Justin, is maybe going to happen between Honzik and Polesny.
Yeah, it seems Polesny is getting a little bit feisty here. He's running very, very close behind him. That's got to be damaging his tires a little bit. Switching on board now with the Republic of Gamers car of Martin Stefenko, currently leading this race. And you can't help but see the parallels to Imola, only everything's reversed, of course. So I guess this is sort of a mirror image of Imola. But these two guys breaking away from the rest of the field. Only 5 laps completed, just coming into the second sector now for lap number 6. And yeah, I mean, it's a 4-second gap, 4 or 5 seconds gap between Smittle and Honzik. So really, these guys have broken away and separated themselves from the rest of the pack, as they did in Imola. But we still have this very close battle between Polesny and Blazek, of course, or excuse me, Polesny and Honzik. Both of these guys actually had some pretty bad luck at Imola. I think both of them finishing lower than they would have liked to, certainly. But also possibly lower than we would have expected them. But now they're battling for that final podium position, and that's, I guess, kind of more where we expected those guys to be. On board, though, with Daniel Lishkak, again, the guy that we saw doing the qualifying lap of. He certainly seems comfortable around this circuit, and as you mentioned, Matty, didn't have the best of starts, but he's looking to rectify that. He is running pretty darn close to Frabish up ahead, so he could be making an overtake. I think he's a little too far back on this occasion. Yep, spots his braking zone a little bit just before the 100-meter board or so into the chicane, really attacking the curbing on that chicane as well, and then into the final corner. A bit of a difficult one as he takes a slightly different line from the car ahead, possibly trying to avoid the dirty air effect coming off of that Frabish up ahead. But yeah, it's not that big of a gap up ahead of him either, ahead of Frabish. So yeah, it seems we have a bit of an accordion effect going on here, Matt, where people are spreading out and then getting closer together again.
Yeah, it seems to be the same kind of trend as well with the midfield, and the fact they run pretty closely together. Fortunately for Honzik, he's not one of those that's involved, because he had a very difficult start to the first round, but this time he is sitting quite nicely in 3rd position, just ahead of Polesny, and managing to keep him behind at the moment. But with that additional race strategy element of KERS being available, it kind of gives the drivers a little bit more to think about as to when they're going to use it. And I think there we go, we've got a bit of usage here from Lishkak, who's going to go up the inside, and with this nicely cambered corner, will he be able to get on the power earlier than Frabish? It looks like he has just about, and look at the background, Zubek losing the back end quite nicely there, and you can see Lishkak a lot quicker than the cars ahead of him. I noticed a couple of laps ago he was a second and a half quicker than Frabish on that previous lap, and again he's about a second quicker than Blazek up ahead. So I think Lishkak will find himself in 5th position in a very short matter of time, and then he's got quite a gap to Polesny in 4th and Honzik in 3rd. And it really does seem like there's just kind of a lot of pairs of Stefanko and Schmidl battling. They've got Honzik and Polesny, and I'm sure we're going to have Blazek and Lishkak at some point as well. Unfortunately for Dolezal, he is the last remaining runner in 11th place at the moment. 3 seconds behind Schlad, so he will want to get involved and not be sat at the back, because I'm pretty sure we like to see battles up and down the field no matter what position, because they score points no matter where they are pretty much, and the higher they can finish, the better the start of their season will be. And we can see again Polesny and Honzik, they haven't really locked wheels yet, they're just kind of, I'm not sure if they're biding, or Polesny's biding his time, or if they are literally driving the absolute wheels off this car, and they're pretty similar in pace. But it has to be said, Polesny probably a little bit quicker, considering he's able to sort of drive this closely to Honzik in the dirty air as well. And you can see Schmidl not that close to Stefanko, which perhaps some people would have predicted coming into this race that Schmidl would have been all over him, but it seems like Stefanko is pretty comfortable out in front, as we're now on board with Zubek, and we can see a bit of a battle there between Liščák and Blazek, and Liščák's already caught and not past him just yet, and actually lost a bit of time there. So Blazek may have pushed Liščák a little bit wide there. I'm not sure. We didn't actually catch that, did we, Justin?
No, didn't quite have the best camera angle for that one, but Zubek using all of the track and then some, even a bit of the grass there to try and carry as much speed at the exit of that Schumacher S as he possibly could. Making his way into turn 12 now before coming onto the very long straight. Again, there is this kind of bend in the straight, but of course these guys, even with the slipstream up ahead and use of curves, is a flat-out corner with all the downforce on these guys, and into the braking zone for the chicane we go. But yeah, clearly Zubek is pushing very hard. I mean, he is a podium finisher already, and a rookie, it should be mentioned, a rookie for this season. I guess he's not a rookie anymore, but for this season he certainly is a rookie, and he is pushing very, very hard to try and catch up to Frabish up ahead. I don't think he's going to be close enough to make anything happen into turn 1. It does look like up ahead, though, things are hotting up between Liščák and Blazek. Yeah, as we switch on board with Liščák, and trying to make the move on the BenQ driver up ahead of him, but just can't quite make it around the outside. Again, the double left-hander of turn 2 and 3, very, very difficult to go around the outside. But once again here, Matt, we have a four-way battle. You can actually see Sakura not far off in the distance, just a couple of seconds, and actually Schlad starting to close in on Sakura as well. So this four-way battle could very quickly turn into a six-way battle.
Yeah, I think Sakura's struggling though still, and I don't think he's going to catch up too quickly to this battle of 4 that we've currently got. But I think Schlad will be licking his lips at the sight of how slowly Sakura's going, and maybe it'll be a 5-way fight at some point, but let's hope that that does happen, because you never know with a 4-way fight what will actually happen between those cars. Usually some sort of incident happens, and Zubek was nearly the one to make that happen with the very wide line that he took on the exit of the Schumacher S's just then, but fortunately got away with it, and the grass did not affect him too much. So what have we got happening on the track at the moment? Stefanko and Schmidl still very much just sitting in first and second at the moment. Schmidl not really making an impression on Stefanko, whereas Schlad is definitely making an impression on Sakura, who takes a massive amount of curb on that first part of the chicane, does Sakura, and I think Schlad will definitely be lining him up right about now, if he can, down this straight, although not that close really. I think Sakura got a pretty decent exit around that final corner, as we're on lap 10 now. We're a third of the way through this race, and Liščák still cannot get through on Blazek, who's taken the right lines to make sure he gets a decent exit out of the corners. You notice that when a car is trying to overtake someone in front of him who's maybe slightly slower, they will take a wider line to make sure they get a really nice exit. But it seems like Blazek is pretty sort of knowledgeable to that, and is doing exactly the same thing as what Liščák is doing. So Liščák definitely struggling to get through on this very, very wide Michael Blazek in the BenQ car. And you can see how much he is excited to get onto the power is Daniel Liščák, as he gets a little bit of oversteer there, and probably getting a little bit frustrated as well. But at the same time, he's nearly 15 seconds, I think it is, behind Polesny. So it has to be said, I think 5th place is about as good as he's going to get, is Daniel Liščák, unless something major happens and a safety car comes out or something. But who knows? We've got a long way to go yet.
It's possible as well that somebody could be saving their tires. So Liščák, who obviously a little bit quicker, should have been further up the grid, probably even involved with Honzik and Polesny for that final podium position. But yeah, he could be saving his tires and thinking about possibly going onto a set of the softs at the end of the race and keeping with that one-stop strategy. And there is the man that is leading the race, Martin Stefanko, in that Republic of Gamers car, holding on to that lead, and about the same gap that we've seen really all throughout the race. as these guys at the back here now on board with Zubek as he finishes lap number 10, starts lap number 11. He's picking up a heck of a slipstream on the run down towards turn 1. He's going to have to do it around the outside, but if he can do it, he'll get the inside line for the next couple of corners. They're still side by side at the corner. He's going to have to give him the space. Frabish does give him the space, just a few centimeters separating those two guys, and it looks like Frabish, oh, very late braking move for Zubek. It goes a little bit deep, and they're still side by side as they come onto the straight now through turn 4, through turn 5, on the run down towards turn 6, still side by side. Zubek with the inside line, but Frabish later on the brakes, runs wide though into the grass, still side by side. They've been side by side for 7 corners now, I think, Matt, and I don't see any signs of this stopping.
Oh, fantastic racing. They're still side by side going into this next right-hander. Who is going to come out on top for this battle for a 7th position? And oh, there's a little bit of contact and slight clip of the grass there, but Zubek gets through on Frabish, and well, what a beast of battling that was, and hats off to both of the drivers there for just creating some fantastic racing and managing to pretty much not make any contact. And that looks like a TP-Link car going very wide, and sorry, not TP-Link, T-Mobile car going very wide, and it was indeed. It's Sakura and Schlatt now trying to get through and up into 9th position. He's got a fantastic run, and Sakura's race is going from bad to worse as we now come towards the chicane. They're going to be side by side. Surely they're not going to go side by side through there. There is absolutely no room for 2 cars through there, and Schlatt trying to get through on Sakura at the moment. Dolezal now with these 2 fighting may well join the battle if they continue for the next couple of laps. And now we have a look at Lishkak, who is ahead of Blazek finally and up into P5, and now he has a monumental task to catch Honzik and Polesny ahead. But if they two start to sort of battle a little bit, which we haven't really seen too much so far at the start of this race, then perhaps Lishkak can start to crawl in that gap. But it is a very, very big gap to catch in 18 laps. That means pretty much a second a lap he's going to have to make up, and I'm not sure if he has that in his locker. Michael Schmidl now having a pretty boring and lonely race. Can't seem to catch Stefanko. You have to say it's not really a gap that you would expect to be sort of where he's trying to stay out the dirty air. I think Schmidl just doesn't have the pace to catch Stefanko this afternoon, and well, it's just a role reversal really from Imola, and Stefanko definitely getting revenge at the moment as we come through the chicane nicely, not hitting those sausage curbs at all, and Schmidl really just having a, well, pretty, for his standards of last time, maybe lackluster afternoon. But I think it's all down to the start really, Justin, between these two.
Yep, and they both started. They're in the positions that they started in, and you know, they both had a solid start. But really, Stefanko was the one that pulled ahead quite a bit at the beginning, and really just used that clean air to his advantage, and probably good usage of the curves as well. Possibly we could be seeing a different style of curves usage. Of course, this is the first race of the season where we've seen the introduction of curves. No curves at Imola last time out, so it could be something as small as that's actually making all of the difference. Curves does add that little bit of extra element of strategy to the race, which could be playing into Stefanko's hands there. Wow, big lockup into turn 1 there, and let's see if he can get the job done. Can Dolezal get past Sakura? No, he can't do it into turn 1. Sakura now behind Schlatt and trying to defend that position from Dolezal, but you know, Matty, just the mentality of racers, they see somebody ahead of them get overtaken, and they just immediately want to do the same thing.
Exactly, and Sakura has been showing since the start of this race that he's been struggling so much with that car. I'd love to know exactly what's going on in that T-Mobile car, but either way, he is facing last position in this race, which I'm sure he was not expecting, being up in 5th position at the start of this race. We're not even halfway through, and he's already falling to the back of the field. Lishkak now, I know the intervals do change quite significantly on this game as it went from 11 to 23 seconds, so it's quite difficult to know if he is catching the likes of Polesny, but when we go on board with him, hopefully we'll see his last lap compared to the guys ahead. But Zubek, you can see 1.1 seconds faster than Blazek in that last lap, and look how much he was closing there, coming towards the chicane. Again, they're going to go side by side. He brakes very late. Can he go around the outside? No, and he just about misses the wall there, and now has to give the position back, I believe. There you go. And Zubek getting a little bit too excited into that chicane, trying to outbrake him so that he could still make the corner, but unfortunately for him, he missed it by probably 10-15 metres. But he's getting another good run now down towards turn 1. Surely not going to go for it this time into turn 1, no, but you can tell Zubek much quicker than Blazek at the moment, who seems to maybe be struggling with a little bit of tyre wear at this stage of the race. but it's quite prominent to see that Liškák has already built about 3 or 4 second lead over Blazek in a matter of about 2 laps. So you can see that Liškák really did deserve to be up in that position had he not had that spin at the start of the race.
Yep, he is very, very quick, and I'm expecting him to get through in not that much time. We are rapidly approaching the halfway point of the race, so those are the guys that are going to be doing 2 medium stints. I'm expecting to start coming in now, really. I would say pit window opens now. Again, the cars do lighten up with fuel. That's a big lockup for Zubek into that cambered hairpin there, but I'm expecting possibly a stop here at the end of lap 14. If anybody's feeling a little bit risky. Now, the obvious choice is just do 15-15 if you're going to run 2 medium stints, but you could be a little bit more aggressive on account of burning off fuel as the race goes on. The cars are going to get lighter and lighter, faster and faster, more and more grip. So also, I don't know how much the track rubbers in over the course of these races as well, but of course stuff like that helps with tire wear as well. So could see somebody coming into the pits. It doesn't look like either of the leaders has gone into the pits. Oh, and contact between Zubek and Blazek is going to send Blazek right around, and I think that's Zubek waiting up, but Frabish isn't waiting around. He's going to head straight into the pits. So is Michael Blazek. He's going to head into the pits in the Ben Q car as well at the end of lap 14. So I guess I was right, Matt. A couple of guys coming in for a fresh set of tires.
Yeah, I think they will be looking for a 1-stop rather than a 2, though, because it's not the quickest of pit lanes here, and a lock-up into the pit box there from, I believe that was Frabish, but that little incident has enabled Frabish to gain a couple of positions on Zubek and Blazek, and Dolazel as well, I think, has definitely got an advantage from that as well. So I believe Blazek may well be in last position now after all is said and done. So we're now looking at the fight for the final podium position between these 2 very similarly sort of liveried cars, I have to say. These 2 are probably the most similar when you have a look at them at a first glance, and Polesny still not really making any sort of inroads into Honzik in terms of actually overtaking, and if he follows him into the pits as well, he's going to have to make that move on the track, which he hasn't been able to do in this first half of the race. As we now come into the pitch, you can see these 2, look at them, they're both having a look at each other, saying, are you going to... Schmidl going, can you slow down, please? And then Stefanko's like, nope, I'm not going to do any of that, mate. So it's quite funny how those 2 are sat next to each other as well, because not many leagues that are online, you don't get to see your competitors, but these 2 sat next to each other. There's Honzik, probably looking a little bit happier than he did last time out, where he had to be doing a lot of overtaking after his poor start at Imola. But seems like Schmidl, with that little quite funny gesture, maybe doesn't know where he can find the pace to catch Stefanko.
Yeah, clearly these guys are fierce competitors, but at the same time very respectful of one another. And yeah, I mean, not only can they see each other, I mean, these guys can smell each other. That's how close they are. And I imagine after 30 laps of the Nürburgring, these guys are going to be smelling pretty powerful. But yeah, it is still the same as far as Stefanko and Schmidl is concerned. Polesny still out on track. It looks like Honzik came in, though. So it looks like Polesny may be trying the overcut, which could be beneficial. Now, last time out, I don't know if it's the tires or the circuit, but last time out, Matt, at Imola, the undercut did not work. In fact, if anything, it hurt Stefanko. Oh, we've got some side-by-side battling going on for the final position, for 10th place here, the final points-paying position. Sakura and Zubek side-by-side through that opening sector, that Mickey Mouse sector, and it looks like Sakura is going to come out on top in this one. And then not a very big gap up ahead to Blazek, and then not a very big gap up ahead to Chlad either. So, and here we go, the current race leader, but not effective race leader, Polesny, coming into the pits in the Predator car, in the red and black machine, and he's going to fit, I assume, a set of the mediums. He's now done 16 laps of racing, so he's got 14 laps still to complete. And we'll see if he's going to be brave and try and do something different than everybody else. And there is the man that he's going to try and come out of the pits ahead as Honzik comes down the start-finish straight out of that final corner, and possibly using a bit of curves as well. And there is his rival on the inside as they head down towards turn 1. Honzik carrying a lot more speed, of course, very close to one another, but it does look like Honzik is going to stay ahead, only narrowly though, Matt.
Yeah, very close indeed. So staying that extra lap really didn't hurt Polesny at all, and in fact, it's pretty much exactly the same gap as it was before. So maybe Polesny, with that extra lap of tyre newness, tyre degradation on Honzik's part, then maybe Polesny will be able to use that advantage, although very slim, and that's going to be close into turn 1. Oh, dearie me. Round the outside goes Zubek, and Dolezal, unfortunately, regains last position. But Zubek getting very close there. And, well, Fabish is now up into 6th position now after all of that, all of those incidents between Blazek and I believe it was Zubek as well. So, yeah, so Fabish has somehow managed to get up into 6th position and doing pretty well for himself at the moment. But not seeing any different strategies at the moment in terms of anything that's catching the eye. Most people have come in at around the same time, given a lap or two. And it's also worth mentioning that the softs were supposed to last a little bit longer, and that's the reason for the one-stop strategies. And there was actually a 3-place grid penalty for Schlad at the start of this race, which we forgot to mention. And Schlad doing okay now, up in 7th position, so pretty happy, I'm sure, with that after his collision at turn 1 Imola, which gave him that penalty. Be interesting to see if there's any other penalties handed out after those first couple of laps, with a few incidents, especially the one into that last chicane between Zubek and, was it Blazek? I believe it was. Yes. So,
yeah.
So there we go. So Polesny and Honzik still very much line astern, and Polesny not really doing much at the moment to suggest an overtake for that final podium position.
Yeah, really doesn't seem like there's much he can do. In fact, if anything, I'd say he's dropped back ever since coming out of the pits behind him. And here we go, Zubek around the outside of the T-Mobile car. Can Sakura fight back at him? Yes, he can, because Zubek ran very deep into that corner, and it looks like Sakura's just going to shoot around the outside of turn 2. And oh gosh, and that's more contact between Zubek and Sakura, and that is going to definitely cause those guys to lose some positions. With everything being so close between these guys, that's got to be very, very frustrating as they now drop down to 10th and 11th position. And Thomas Dolezal says, thank you very much. I think I will take those couple of points for 9th position. And now has a few seconds gap to Michael Blazek up ahead, but that has got to be very, very frustrating for both Zubek and Sakura. I would have to see a replay of it to know exactly what happened there, but certainly that's not the type of thing that you want to have happen, especially with just 11 laps remaining in this race, Matt.
Yeah, Zubek showing maybe his slight rookiness that he's brought to this league, obviously being new to the league, and only his 2nd race here for the Thrustmaster Virtual GP Championship. But Zubek, you know, he had the pace. He's very much a quick driver, and quicker than maybe half the field. Ooh. But he's found himself in last position and also been given a drive-through penalty for the collision with Sakura. And that's pretty much his race over, it has to be said. Zubek will probably not score any points here this afternoon, and that's unfortunate for him because, as I say, he was very quick and was making his way through the field. But a little bit of an impatience on his part means that he now has to dive into the pits for a drive-through penalty, and that pretty much ends his hopes of a good race result. And do we have anything else really going on track at the moment in terms of the intervals? It doesn't really seem so. There's a couple of cars together, as we know already, but not as much racing action as I mentioned at the start. You know, this track isn't that easy to make overtakes on if you compare it to maybe Imola with a couple of very long straights and hard braking points, but Nürburgring doesn't really promote that racing as much.
Yeah, I would say, of course, the hardest braking zone is into that turn 14-15 chicane, which these guys are actually braking for right now. Thank you for illustrating that for me, guys. I appreciate that. That is the hardest braking zone, but it's almost like the kink, the turn 13 kink that you have in that straight just makes it that little bit harder to kind of line up for a pass. Because the drivers don't really know where the car ahead is going to position themselves before they get to that chicane, because they have to take that racing line through that kink, and it kind of makes things difficult for the overtaking cars. Just makes it that little bit more challenging, and I think that's possibly the primary reason. I think turn 1 is even the best overtaking location, but as we've seen, it's also fairly easy to defend at turn 1 because there's so many different lines that you can take. We've seen people undercutting and then going around the outside at turn 2, all sorts of stuff. So it just makes that overtaking that little bit more difficult, which means the pole position and the qualifying positions that these guys had is just that much more important, and also not having any incidents. And unfortunately, a number of these guys having incidents at turn 1, just racing incidents, a lot of these, nothing you could do. But Stefanko definitely seems in control of this race. As you said yourself, Matty, it doesn't seem like Schmidl is just staying out of the dirty air. It seems to me, to my eye anyway, that he is legitimately struggling to keep up with Stefanko.
Yep, definitely, and I hope it's not a trend for the rest of this season that whoever gets into turn 1 first. I'm pretty sure everyone is familiar with something like that in real-life Formula 1 as well, where the person who gets into turn 1 first pretty much wins the race. So Stefanko and Schmidl, we'd like to see some side-by-side action with these guys as well, and hopefully with the tracks coming up for the rest of the season, there'll be a few tracks that will actually promote overtaking and side-by-side action. I mean, we've seen side-by-side action down the field, but it'd also be nice to see a fight for the lead in terms of, I know we've got the kind of gaps that we want. 2 seconds isn't much, but they're so consistent that it really doesn't matter. If it's ever anything over a second, there's not going to be any side-by-side action. So Stefanko and Schmidl very much, just the most consistent by a country mile, it seems, with Honzik and Polesny, seeming like the next kind of guys. If Schmidl and Stefanko had to have any sort of incident or anything like that, those two will be the ones to maybe capitalise on that. But either way, it's about 16, 17 seconds to Honzik. So, they have got so much time in their back pockets. It's quite scary for the rest of the competition. And we're now on board with the BenQ car of Blazek, who is currently running in 8th position. And running slightly on his own as well. 2 seconds to Chlad, 2 seconds to Dolazel. And these guys just going round and enjoying maybe the flow of Nürburgring. It is a nice track to look at, the cambers on the corners, and it makes it quite interesting for the drivers, especially that one he's just gone through there. It's quite nice to kind of be able to get on the power quite early because of the way the corner is cambered, but at the same time there's not too much battling going on at the moment. However, Polesny and Honzik may be about to answer our dreams and wishes as we now come around the final corner. Polesny starting to put the pressure on here, Justin.
Yeah, he is getting very close, and you can see a little bit of a worried look maybe on Honzik. Yeah, that was him looking in the rearview mirror. I saw that eye glance here. You're not sneaking away from me. Polesny though, losing the back end actually under braking. That's rare for an F1 car, but obviously he must have his brake bias a little bit too rearwards, and that is unfortunately going to destroy all of the gap that he closed in the latter stages of that lap. But he was getting very, very close for a little bit there. So hopefully these guys will continue to get closer and closer until we reach the point where we get some side-by-side battling, because, yeah, we haven't seen any side-by-side battles just yet for the lead of this race, but we very much have these packs. Of course, Stefanko and Schmidl off on their own, Honzik and Polesny off on their own. Lishkak is really off on his own, actually. He's pretty much the only one that really doesn't have to worry about too much. He just needs to keep his focus, keep it on the road. Frabish has only a 2-second gap down to Chlad, similar sort of gap for down to Blazek and Dolazel, and Sakura as well, just a handful of seconds away, but potentially with damage, as we've been mentioning all throughout this broadcast, so we don't know the exact circumstances. But switching on board with the race leader, Martin Stefanko, again picking up 19 points, because I think worth pointing out, Matt, not only did he finish less than a second behind Schmidl last time out at Imola, but he did also get fastest lap. Yeah,
he did, and Stefanko, I'm assuming, is going to cash in on fastest lap this time as well. And that will mean he will lead the championship coming away from the Nürburgring and finishing round 2. So Stefanko will be happy with that, and maybe it will come down to the fastest laps. Maybe we'll just have them constantly switching positions between first and second. It will just come down to whoever gets the most fastest laps, but hopefully it doesn't come down to that and someone will actually outright win it. But yeah, Stefanko and Schmidl very much in a class of their own. And here we go, Polesny with that 1 lap less on those tyres compared to Honzik. Does seem to be closing in quite nicely, even in the dirty air, which you can see just slight understeer there, with the fact that, it's going to be quite painful for Polesny to follow Honzik through that section. But this sort of middle sector is a little bit quicker now, as we come into this very cambered right-hander. Get on the power quite early, let the car run out, which he doesn't actually do that time, does Polesny, but now it's full throttle all the way through the Schumacher S's, and then quite hard braking now. And then he's going to be hoping for a really nice exit And a really nice line through here, which he doesn't really manage to do there. He wants to be hitting that apex again, running a little bit wide. But he's going to have some curves potentially going down this straight. And now he'll be focusing his thoughts towards this chicane. And maybe a move into turn 1 for the start of lap 25. But that's probably his only real chance to make a move. And Honzik will be absolutely eyes stalking out of his head, trying to make sure that he gets the best run out of this final corner. Polesny looking close, but not close enough as we now come down the straight, but he is gaining, but I don't think he'll be trying anything into turn 1 just yet, unless he's feeling very brave, which, oh dearie me, he's feeling brave. God, that must have been millimetres away from an absolute collision there, and Lishkat would have been absolutely licking his lips in 5th position, but Polesny starting to get a little bit impatient here. And we may well see a pretty big dive bomb from him at some point. Honzik must have seen him in his rear view mirrors. I would have loved to have seen his face seeing that into. There you go, a bit of a shake of the head from Honzik there. Perhaps on the move, Polesny just tried to pull off, and maybe thinking Honzik was going to have a little bit of a spin, which you've seen a few times with other drivers with very minimal contact. But Polesny at the moment, it does look like, is trying to shape up a move, and Honzik's going to have to keep his eyes very much open.
Yeah, Hans is taking a very late apex for that hairpin. In fact, staying away, taking a very, very wide line at the entrance, grabbing that apex right at the very end, and you can see the benefit that that's had all the way, because as you mentioned, full throttle through the Schumacher S with cars that have this much downforce. So, and then missing his apex. Yeah, Polesny, I think, just suffering from that dirty air effect. As you mentioned, the understeer that it gives you, Matt, just making things that little bit more difficult. He really struggled through turns 6 and 7 earlier in the lap, and once again through turn 12. And that is probably one of the most important corners on the circuit if he wants to have any sort of attack, if he wants to have any sort of chance of taking that 3rd place position and picking up a podium, which would be truly fantastic if he could grab that, especially to do it on Honzik, and legitimately, you know, that would be a huge ego boost and also a championship points boost as well. He would really, really like to pick up those 3 extra points that he could get for picking up 3rd instead of 4th. So Richard Slide, though, as mentioned earlier, in 9th position at the moment, not too far behind Dolazel, and it does look like actually that battle for 7th position, Matty, is hotting up here.
Yep, so we've got Dolazel and Blazek. So Dolazel was running in last position a little while ago, and now he's turned his attention to P7, where Michael Blazek is currently holding that position. If we come down towards turn 1 now, let's hope Dolazel does not go for the same move that Polesny decided to try and do. And you can see he got a little bit later on the brakes there, had a little bit of a lock-up, and you saw the tyres on the front there just stop rotating for a very short amount of time. And Dolazel will be quite happy to see himself up in P8 after running in last position, as I say, earlier on in this race. And well, his pace is 0.8 quicker than Blazek on that last lap, which is very useful information to have, which shows that Blazek is definitely struggling at the moment. And we now come back to the battle for P3, and the last lap times are pretty similar, and Polesny obviously not being able to go really much quicker than Honzik, because he is about as quick as he can go without having to crash into Honzik as we come around the final corner now. Can he get a good exit? He's a very slight bit of oversteer there, but nothing really that would have cost him much time, but still looks like Justin Honzik is going to be able to keep that position into turn 1.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was Kerr's usage. Maybe Honzik using these Kerrs right out of the final corner, giving himself that double dose of Kerrs even as they start a new lap potentially. But Dolazel and Blazek continuing on, the gap a little bit bigger than we saw earlier when those two were battling it out. And these guys, of course, cannot forget about Honzik and Polesny. These guys still running very, very close together, and less than a handful of laps remaining in this German Grand Prix. So I have to imagine that really Polesny is getting a bit desperate here, running all the way off the curbing even, coming out of turn 7 there, really doing everything he can to try and minimize that gap. Oh, a bit of a lockup there from Honzik into turn 8, and he's going to run a little bit wider.
Could be a chance here.
Yeah, through the Schumacher S's. Let's see if he can carry as much speed and close in. In fact, because of course he should be closing in. Yes, he's looking much closer here than he has on previous laps. This could be his chance, Matt.
We should run a little bit wide though to Polesny there, and I'm not sure that would have cost him a little bit of time as we now come down the back straight. Will Polesny have any kind of chance? No, he did run wide there, and he has lost some time, but he still needs to make sure that he takes this chicane really nicely. Honzik now into the chicane. Oh, just about managing to clip that apex, maybe a little bit wide there. And let's have a look and see what is Polesny saying coming through this final corner. We cannot see him. Unfortunately, we do not get the rear view mirror camera angle. And you can see there, Honzik just nervously looking over in his rear view mirror. He's not going defensive, which means Polesny is still just about behind. 0.2 seconds. Oh my God, there he goes. And Honzik, well, there was a bit of contact and Polesny led him back through. And Honzik was almost surprised there by Polesny diving it up the inside. And, well, that was an interesting camera angle to have because it was almost a peekaboo for us as well. We didn't see that coming. Well, actually, we kind of did from Polesny's last couple of laps and wanting to make it happen. But either way, I think Honzik was just as surprised as we were.
Yeah, that was actually really nice. I liked the onboard footage for seeing that because, yeah, we got to feel the same way Honzik felt, although he may have seen it coming a little bit better with the use of those mirrors on the car, as small as they are. And Dolezal now with his best opportunity on Blazek. Can he do it around the outside of turns 2 and 3? He's actually sticking with them still side by side into turn 3. If he can stay around the outside here, he'll get the inside line. No, he can't quite. Switches back over to the racing line. He's going to give himself the best possible run through turn 4 here. And you can see Blazek, though, just running that little bit extra wide. And Zubek, in fact, oh, he's coming into the pits. I have a feeling we're going to see a set of super softs on a car here, Matt, as Zubek is possibly going to go for fastest lap.
Yeah, makes sense. He's in last position. He's got nothing to lose, so he may as well go into the pits and get some very fresh super softs on and most likely take the fastest lap. But there's Dolezal, who's losing time to Blazek now. Yeah, I'm not really sure what's gone on there. But Stefanko still very much comfortable, as you like. You could put your house on Stefanko winning from here, I think, because we haven't seen one mistake from Stefanko or Schmidl. And it's very unlikely to see any from here as well. I think Schmidl really did kind of maybe just give up this race, not in the sense of a loser's kind of mentality, but the fact is, you know, he kind of understood that he's not really got the pace to catch Stefanko. And, well, the consistency is pretty much bang even with both of them, as we now cast our eye back to the fight for the final podium position. Polesny back with Honzik once again, and can Polesny pull off something, pull off a miracle into turn 1? That's really his only opportunity, I think, and it's all down to this KERS usage. I think if I was Polesny, I'd be maybe trying a different kind of move with or different kind of usage of the KERS to maybe not be as predictable as perhaps maybe as Honzik may well be thinking that, you know, his only opportunity is going to be into turn 1, so that's where Honzik will also save all of his KERS so he can use it as a defensive mechanism, whereas Polesny will obviously using it as a offensive mechanism. So here we are back with Stefanko as he starts his penultimate lap time, still in the 1:30s despite the fact that he is clear home and dry. These two very much the only ones in the 1:30s, although Peter Zubek will be hoping to get a little bit quicker than that. As, oh my dear, so Dolezal has managed to catch up to Blazek within 1 lap. So maybe Dolezal was just letting his tyres cool down maybe a little bit and just preparing himself for a final onslaught here, as we've only got a couple of laps to go. And can Dolezal pull off something? It looks like he's much quicker than Blazek at the moment.
Yep, he's lining him up. He just needs a good run through 11 and 12 here. I see him hitting his apex for turn 12. Good run onto the straight. Oh, yeah, he is picking up a heck of a slipstream here. Which way is Blazek going to go? Left or right? He's going to defend the inside line. Dolezal's going to have to go around the outside very late on the brakes. Just about leaving the room. Has to clunk over that final curbing there, but I think that was fair. So I think he's going to hold on to that position. So he's now up into 7th. Blazek down into 8th position. Still 1 lap remaining, though, so it's not all said and done just yet. Yeah, you can see the Ben Q car swerving over to the left-hand side. He's already got the move done, though, possibly maybe some instruction there to actually give the position back. But it's not over just yet, so he could still possibly make the overtake. He is running very, very close behind him, but that looked like to me like he was letting him back through.
Oh, most definitely. And Polesny is 0.3 seconds behind Honzik, it says on the intervals there. So we need to have a look and see what's going on for P3 at the moment, as we have now started the final lap of this race. And can any other positions be changed? I think the only one that's going to happen is for the podium position. And here we go. Polesny, though, is not going to be able to do it, as well, no, they haven't actually started their last lap yet, I don't think.
Right.
So
yep.
There is one more lap to go for these guys. Only Stefanko's on the last lap at the moment. So Polesny, this is his only chance now, I think, coming into turn 1, because he's not going to get another opportunity coming in onto this last lap, and he's too far back, but he's going to go for it anyway. And well, maybe a little bit of a desperate move there to try and make something happen. Maybe put Honzik off slightly, but Honzik has managed to soak up the pressure for this entire race pretty much from Polesny, and he's only got one more lap to have to do so. And, well, Polesny, unfortunately for him, he had that one opportunity where he did actually get up the inside, but didn't manage to hit his braking point well enough, and that was his one shot ruined, unfortunately. But casting our mind now to Martin Stefanko, it's been a brilliant drive from him, and Schmidl has had absolutely nothing to say about this guy this time round. Stefanko gets pole position, gets a great start, and it's been P1 from here on in, really, apart from when they pitted. And I think it was Polesny led for a lap. But apart from that, Stefanko is going to come round the final corner, and he is going to be on the top step of the podium for round 2 of this Thrustmaster Virtual GP Championship around Nürburgring. A nice little fist pump there as well, making sure Schmidl sees that maybe as a little bit of mind games. And it is going to be Lishkak. He finishes in 3rd position, and a few donuts as well. Well, Schmidl's doing a donut as well, just for fun. But the winner is usually the one that donuts. I've never really seen it for 2nd or 3rd, unless it's a really terrible team.
Well, these guys fiercely competitive. Clearly, Schmidl even wants to be better at doing donuts than Stefanko. But today in Germany, it was Martin Stefanko in the Republic of Gamers car that picks up the win with a time of 46 minutes, 11 seconds, by less than 3 seconds ahead of Schmidl. Honzik, though, holding on to that final podium position. I'm sure he's going to be very happy about that.
As you can now see Stefanko leading Schmidl in the championship by 1 point. What will happen in round 3 of this Thrustmaster Virtual GP 2017 Championship? Find out next time. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Matthew Gallagher. Justin Sutton's been alongside me, and we'll see you next time.